Hi, good morning. It's the Bitcoin Morning Brief. Happy Monday. We have Rodolfo on and Jimmy and Tone. Actually, looks like a very nice apartment that he has going on. Rodolfo, how was your weekend?
It's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
easy.
that was good. For
Easy,
relaxing
easy.
too, maybe?
Yes. Had to
That's
make a quick visit to the factory, but yeah.
nice. And Jimmy, you're traveling much more. How's everything?
Well, I'm getting ready for the Bitcoin Carnivory dinner on Friday. But yeah, I'm gonna be in Chicago starting later today. So I'm doing my seminar the next couple of days. Got the video set up. I think pretty much down at this point. It's showing it's nice HD. I'm gonna release more videos and so on.
Nice, nice. And Tone, you're in Vegas, but leaving soon for Chicago as well, yeah?
Yeah, we have the conference here. The conference starts today, right after the show. I gotta run down there. I'm speaking in a couple of hours. I'm gonna have a fireside chat with Michael Turpin about ICOs. That's gonna be interesting. Considering we just covered Michael Turpin in our law show that he lost $25 million because of his phone being hacked, and he's suing AT&T 200 mil on top of that. But we're gonna talk about ICOs. Yeah, and I'm off to Chicago on Wednesday to join Jimmy.
Nice, Shy City. Wait, Rodolfo, what's up with Cold Card? I heard this weekend there's announcements.
Yeah, so we ramped up the shipping. We're getting now through a lot more. It's I actually thought there were less orders, but it was actually a lot more orders than I thought. The factory is sort of just like ramping up as many as we can. So you're gonna get yours very soon in a nice security bag.
Yes.
Make sure it's closed and check the firmware.
You're sending some to us too, right?
Yeah, everybody who placed an order is getting one.
Well, I couldn't place it because it was like there was some like over a certain amount, like it was across the
Oh,
border
okay.
or some
Yeah,
crap.
well, we're gonna hook up everybody.
All
But
right.
yeah, guys, this is it's a lot of fun. I posted a video of the machine that closes the case on Twitter.
We're gonna show it. It's awesome. All right. Well, that's good news for the morning. And to bring it back up, you do have your carnivory dinner. Jimmy, are you still selling tickets? It looks like you're still selling tickets, but it got raised.
Yeah. Well, no. It says ended. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to go fix that. I thought it was continuing. I'll figure that out in the next 5 minutes while somebody else is talking.
Okay. All right. Well, we're also going to bring that back up at the end. But to your point, Rodolfo, this is actually so cool.
It's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, I don't know. I love machines. It's just staying on the factory floor watching these things go back and forth is really cool. If people want to know about it, so Vortex has a new podcast called Deciphered, and I went there talk about Cold Card and Open Dime. Check it out.
Nice. And if everyone remembers, Vortex is doing his programming workshops these days too. Very exciting. All right. And let's get moving. So, Jimmy, you published this morning why you can't shortcut trust. Can you give us the thesis? What's up?
Yeah, so this is talking about why Bitcoin is special, basically, and you need a lot of time in order for people to trust something. I go in through a lot of the trust hacks that ICOs and altcoins deploy in order to get other people to buy their stuff, basically. I take a few jabs at sort of the Keynesian model. I go through a lot of the monetary properties that you want in a money, and then go through which ones are more focused towards convenience and which ones are more focused on value, and how sometimes they conflict, and how you resolve that conflict. Long story short, you should hold Bitcoin. If you're playing the long game on Bitcoin, you should really prioritize the value properties or the security properties, and making sure that doesn't get inflated and things like that. So yeah, it's something that I was going to do as a tweet storm, but I decided, you know what, I haven't done an article in a while. I really need to write something down anyway. So if you scroll down a little bit, there's some funny cartoons in there. So hopefully you guys like it, and yeah, let me know what you think. My Twitter's open. It goes through a bunch of things. I would say this is more my reasoning for why you need to make sure that you're not prioritizing stuff like speed of transaction. Instead, you should focus on making sure that it's secure and things of that nature.
Fantastic. It always surprises me how you actually find perfect cartoons. Like it's incredible.
I probably spend more time looking for cartoons than I do like the entire article. Like I have to go through like 100 cartoons before I find one that I like for a particular section.
It's amazing. All right. Well, hopefully we will talk about it more in depth. It was just published this morning. It's very exciting. Everybody check it out. And also just a note on that, because I think it's a good follow-up. Safe did an incredible interview. I don't know if you guys watched with the Mises Institute yesterday, which is obviously Austrian economics. And he actually, it was very, very interesting. He had a couple points where, so he was talking about the gold standard, to your point, Jimmy. And also he was saying that, to quote you, Safe, if that's okay, if you want to kill Bitcoin is to restore the gold standard. So he was also giving a very well-rounded, very interesting take on everything, and also what could happen. And we have a lot of, people in the Trump administration that are trying to go back to the gold standard. So absolutely incredible interview. Everybody should check it out. And boom. Thank you, Stefan. So we're going to talk about Andreas Antonopoulos is against the Bitcoin ETF. Why? Manipulation and influence by big institutions. He released a video about it. Tone, start with you. How intelligent do you think Andreas was on his arguments here? We've been talking about Andreas recently. What did you think when you listened?
Yeah, so I actually did get a chance to listen to that 8-minute video. There is a summary of that 8-minute video in a tweet. I don't know if you want to pull up the tweet and maybe read the tweet. So before we talk about it.
Absolutely. Thor's like having bad dreams or something in the background. Sorry for whatever it sounds like. Okay. I can, for example, use my Bitcoin to vote. I can choose which exchanges to send my Bitcoin to. If I want to send it to an exchange, I can choose to pick up, for example, fork coins in another fork because I have the keys. If there is ever a fork debate, which is very likely to happen again in any cryptocurrency, then the funds that control Bitcoin now have a very large voice. Their shareholders don't. They don't get to choose which fork the fund is going to follow in a Bitcoin debate. We actually saw that level of influence during the August 1 fork. Large custodial exchanges had a very strong voice in the ecosystem. They were able to decide if they were going to support or not going to support a fork on behalf of 10 million customers, is what Andreas said.
Okay, so everything now there were several things in that video that Andreas said that I completely agree with. Now, I'm gonna side with Andreas here that the Bitcoin ETF will probably cause more harm than good. So I lean with him that the ETF probably should not actually happen. However, everything said in that statement, I believe, is inaccurate, because the custodians of other people's Bitcoin had absolutely no say in what happens to the future of Bitcoin. This was already proven with the user-activated soft fork, Coinbase, Zappo, BitPay. None of them wanted SegWit. They wanted big blocks. And what people have to realize is it's actually the opposite of what Andreas said. If you're an institution that controls, 5% of the Bitcoin, you only control one node that matters. While, 5 people having 3 Bitcoin each have a bigger say than your company having thousands of Bitcoins or tens of thousands of Bitcoins, because it's the number of nodes that matter. And when you're Coinbase, you have one vote, no matter how many Bitcoin you actually hold. And they got outvoted. So I mean, like, there are good reasons, and Andreas names additional reasons why we shouldn't have an ETF. I don't believe this is one of them, in my view. Now, he also talked about how if one of this institution, oh boy, he also assumes that the ETF is going to be backed by physical Bitcoin, which I agree with. I think a real ETF like GLD has to have that Bitcoin in cold storage, but technically it doesn't have to, right? We had another ETN launch. Like it could be more of an ETN style where they're not mandated to hold that Bitcoin, in which case it's cash settled just like the futures. So let's assume that the ETF is going to hold the Bitcoin. So Andreas also mentioned how if that ETF is not going to take on the latest soft fork features of, let's say, privacy. I don't think that matters either, because once you have an ETF and that Bitcoin gets locked up in an ETF, it's not like that Bitcoin is going in and out of the ETF. GLD isn't exactly moving in and out of the gold ETF. So it just basically gets locked up and paper ones are trading. So I don't think that's going to make a big difference either. I don't see how a big locked up version of Bitcoin is going to create two tiers of Bitcoin, a more anonymous one and a non-anonymous one. Something like Coinbase is a much bigger problem. Bitcoin stored on Coinbase go in and out of Coinbase all the time. Bitcoin stored in an ETF will not move for 10 to 20 years, maybe forever. That's one of the reasons why I am not happy with it, is the opposite of that, is because once those Bitcoins go into the backing of the ETF, they're never going to move. And as that ETF grows over time, there could be 10, 20, 30% of all the Bitcoin underlying the ETF that doesn't move. Now, that might raise the value of Bitcoin on the street, the one that actually moves around peer-to-peer, but it creates an unreasonably large centralized honeypot that could A, be hacked, B, be confiscated by the government if they want to, let's say, like they confiscated gold, or C, just, held as a basically leveraged, hey, we have 30 Bitcoin, we're going to tell the world what to do, even though they will probably eventually lose, just like the big custodians of Bitcoin lost on August 1st, 2017. I'll leave it, but overall, I do lean with Andreas, maybe 55% to 45% that the ETF will cause more harm than good. And I wish we didn't have GBTC now.
Oh.
But
but Tone, like this is like, I mean, it's fine. I agree with you guys on like bad or good sort of thing, but this is the wrong mental model, right? It doesn't really matter. See, if Bitcoin is doing it right, we don't get to have a choice or an opinion if somebody's going to go and build a product on top of it, and it's a good thing that we don't get to have like a choice if somebody else wants to build on top of it. It's just how Bitcoin is. I mean, even if it's a crappy product, even if it's a scammy product, that's the whole point of having a uncensorable coin. And I find it's extremely deserving for somebody with some stance in the community to go there and say, hey, Amazon. I think it's extremely deserving for somebody to go there and say that we shouldn't have this. We will have this. It's just how Bitcoin works.
Jimmy,
and I agree with that. Like I am just pointing out the risks, the advantages and the disadvantages of an ETF. The biggest advantage of the ETF is that right now we have an ETF. It's called GBTC, and it's absolutely terribly designed, and it needs competition. And the disadvantage is it creates a giant honeypot. Now, my disadvantages of having an ETF are very, very different than Andreas's. I just disagree with his statements on the disadvantages of an ETF because I don't think that part matters.
Jimmy, if you don't mind, Jimmy, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with Rodolfo? What do you?
So first, I want to correct something that Tone said, which is that each node gets a vote. That's not how it works. It's basically if you have a node, you can choose to follow whichever rule set you feel like. So if you are a Bitcoin Cash node, for example, you follow their rules. If you are a Bitcoin node, you follow your own rules. If there were a fork in the future, you have complete control over which rule set you follow. So you don't have to listen to anybody else. It's not a democracy. It's not a vote. There's nothing like that. It's You follow what you want. And the thing about the thing that really made it so that the user activated side won, or the users won, is because these businesses rely on users to determine, what is actually Bitcoin. Like, if they have one product and users are demanding another product, it's not going to work for them, right? Like, their business is pretty much ruined. That's why they won. It's because people were sovereign over their own node. That said, I want to agree very strongly with Rodolfo on this isn't a vote, guys. Like, you don't get to decide, okay, these people are doing an ETF. Is it yay or nay? It's not a democracy. Everyone who wants to can create whatever business they want on top of Bitcoin. And that's a good thing. That's an excellent thing. That's how things get built. I mean, if you're going to complain not enough people are building and complain about this like possible innovation, I have news for you. Not every innovation that that's going to go on top of Bitcoin is something that you're necessarily going to like. But that's okay. That's how markets work. If it really is a bad idea, then the market will say so by not buying it. And if it is a good idea, then people will buy it. Now, it's possible, like Tone said, that it becomes a more centralizing force. I think like getting more Bitcoins out of circulation isn't necessarily a bad thing, because the ETF can essentially act as a second layer. What I do worry about is something else that he said, which is that it's possible that it gets hacked, and then all those people are out of money or whatever. But that's okay too, because then those people then learn, okay, you can't keep it with an ETF, and I need to go control my own coin. So in many ways, like there's good and bad to everything, and you just sort of need to let the market play out and let them work their own things out before you can really render judgments on this sort of thing. Am I for an ETF or not? I'm for people innovating and building stuff on top. And I am totally fine with people that are trying different things. And, to me, it seems like it's a little bit of rent seeking or whatever. But, if they want to try it, go for it, right? Like that's your right as somebody that's a self-sovereign individual or a company or whatever, is to build stuff. And I'm all for that. Is it going to be successful? I have no idea. Is it going to be good for price? I have no idea. Is it going to be bad for price? I have no idea. But ultimately, I want stuff like that to exist because we all learn lessons. We become more anti-fragile, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for that correction. It's not really a correction. Like, I just didn't say it properly. I obviously knew what you just explained with not really a vote, but it's the Bitcoins that you're gonna validate your own transactions. Obviously, I knew all that because I was running a node for the user activated soft fork. But thanks for the much better explanation. And I will say that giant honeypot could, the reason why I think that could be a little bit dangerous, not even before the hack, is because people might lose a little bit of confidence in the decentralization of Bitcoin if 33% of all Bitcoin is controlled by one entity. So a little bit of confidence could be shaken at that point, I think.
I don't know if there will be that much in an ETF. Do you think whales that have that much, right? Like, to get 33% means like implies a giant price increase, because like the liquidity of Bitcoin just isn't that much. And in order to buy that, for an ETF to be able to accumulate that much, would imply like Bitcoin value in the $100,000 million range. Like,
yeah, I agree. No, I agree. I agree with those valuations. Yes.
Mm-hmm. In which case, like if you're spending that much, how many people have to come into an ETF to get like 33% is like what, like 7 million Bitcoins? 7 million Bitcoins times 100,000. That's an insane amount of money. I don't think that would ever like.
Well, we can take
I think it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a lot of interest, and you know what? Like, theoretically, they could do it right. They could do the security right, and they could sort of like not get hacked. And even if they did, it would probably be partial. Now, like, the thing is, it's like I was saying, and Jimmy sort of reiterated, it's like, some people are not for drugs be bought with Bitcoin. Some people are not for ETFs to be bought with Bitcoin, or Bitcoin ETFs to be bought. It's just sort of the freedom of it. Now, if people really want to sort of get a nice view of ETF products and sort of like a more grown-up version of a discussion about finalization of Bitcoin than what Andres had, I highly recommend the Noted podcast with Gabor Gurbax. Is that how you say his name? Anyways, check out the Noted podcast. They go over some of this stuff, and it's actually very interesting. But again, it's not our choice. It's uncensorable money.
Thank you, Rodolfo. All right, so we have next generation decentralized poker platform, revolutionizing online poker forever. So it's a company, Crypto Poker Club, which is utilizing DLT. They say that they can handle same-day withdrawals with 0 transaction fees and boasting really strong security measures. I find this fascinating. Jimmy, at least for me also, like arguably poker is one of the best use cases of Bitcoin. Some people have, always been excited. I actually am very excited about it. Do you think that what Crypto Poker Club is doing has, I guess, pun intended, finally cracked the code?
Well, so here's the thing about like decentralized poker. You still have to trust somebody, right? Like somebody has to deal the cards and you have to trust that the dealer's not cheating. And that part, I don't think is solved at all by this stuff. Even if you had like a completely randomly generated deck that, like everyone gives a nonce to, and it's provably fair in that regard, you can still have the dealer show everybody, show one player what all the other players are holding. Like it's not something that you can make trustless. So I mean, yeah, you can do Bitcoin for the actual like transferring of money or something like that. But this makes it sound like the actual poker is trustworthy because there's some decentralized platform in the middle. That's pretty much impossible. So I guess there's maybe some possible way you can use zero knowledge proofs or something like that, where it's encrypted to a particular key. I'm not exactly sure. I have to learn more about ZK proofs in order to be able to make that determination. But I highly doubt that it's actually decentralized in that regard. And that's really the one that matters from a gambling standpoint, is to be able to trust that the dealer isn't cheating. And I don't know if anyone can actually give that guarantee, given that like the game of poker, if you know what the other person is holding, that is enough information for you to cheat. Or, even if you know what they're not holding besides your cards, that's enough for you to cheat. I mean, the edges are so tiny that it gets like that. So I don't know. I think it's overselling sort of the decentralization aspect. You can do just like money transfers in a sort of like third-party trusted way already, which is what most gambling sites do. So I don't know what the innovation is here.
Thanks, Jimmy. Rodolfo, what were your thoughts?
I mean, I love people using Bitcoin for anything that is censorable and getting away with it. I mean, it's just so nice to see people sort of, using what it's for. It's for not being censored. Now, I think, I agree with some points that Jimmy had, but I think that online gambling, for example, has a few different problems. And one of the problems is sort of censorable payouts and censorable deposits, and Bitcoin does solve that. You could make some of the provability of the DAX kind of, there's still trust there. I agree with Jimmy on that one. Now, I still think that, we can still have the reputation sort of sort some of that problem out. If most people feel like they're getting cheated on a system, the word's going to get out and people stop using that platform. Maybe in the future, with DICE, it's totally possible to make it provable, as long as all the answers are public, right? So if cards, the answers are not public until everybody, actually, if people fold their cards, then the answers are never public. So it's very hard to do provability there. But anyways, I think the key here is we want to see more people using Bitcoin for things Bitcoin is great at.
Thanks, Rodolfo. And Tone, you're the one in Vegas. Have you hit the tables? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I was playing a little bit of blackjack. I just don't have the whenever I have like 30 minutes to kill, an hour to kill, I sit down at a blackjack table. Haven't had any time to play any poker. So I agree with Jimmy and Rodolfo on what they said. And I spoke about decentralizing poker with Doug Polk on my last podcast, and I talked to him about like the trust issue. And the current big poker sites, they're pretty trusted. I mean, it's their reputation on the line. And Bitcoin has solved the censorability problem. So getting your money quickly into a gambling site and out of a gambling site that has utilized Bitcoin, that's no longer a problem. Now, the one thing I was looking for in this article is, are they going to ICO? Because if they are, I would have called this project a scam. Now, I did go to their website, and it specifically says on their website that they are not doing an ICO. Now, that may not mean they are or aren't doing a token. And this is going to be the issue, right? If they are actually going to tokenize this thing, then they're trying to make money on creating something that is totally unnecessary. If they're not going to make a token at all, no ICO, no utility token, no security token, like somewhere at the bottom there, it says that it's not an ICO, right? So that's a good start. It could be, there it is, right there. We are not an ICO. It says right there in their little disclaimer there. So that's a good thing. Now let's see if they're going to tokenize at all. Now, if they're not going to ICO and they're going to just profit from the rake in the poker game, this could be, a legit competitor to the current poker sites. And let's see if it works. The other issue is the current gambling websites. There is a regulatory body. I think it's a private regulatory body that actually, checks to make sure that your, code is legit and your games are legit. I'm assuming that there is one. So I don't know if that regulatory body is going to understand how a decentralized poker website works. I still don't understand how a decentralized poker site is going to work, because there's still all of these elements of centralization, including the front end website itself. So we will see. We will see what they do. As long as they don't tokenize to profit off a token, they're not a scam to me. But is it going to be successful? I doubt it, but I would like to see them try.
Interesting. Yeah, me too. I'd like to use it, hopefully. So Venezuela, so this is all over the news, although haven't been very impressed by a lot of the news sites that have been covering this. But Venezuela launches one of the greatest foreign exchange devaluations in history. So Maduro is devaluing the bolivar by 95%. Obviously, hyperinflation has been insanely rampant for a very long time. And they're pegging it to the petro. So that's the cryptocurrency. We've followed this since, I think, April when they announced it. Obviously, this is backed, given the name, by oil. And they're issuing 100 million petros on NEM. Rodolfo, I'll let you go first on this one.
So, I mean, I grew up in Brazil, and I went through a few of these, but they didn't have cryptocurrencies at the time. So they just created a new paper with a new name and put a new number with it with less zeros. Wonderful. So I don't think people understand. You cannot, there is no point in backing a digital asset. It is seriously pointless. If you have a scarce proof of work token, right? Like, the scarcity is where the value comes from. You saying that it's worth a barrel of oil, it's pointless. You're just doing two things. It's an oxymoron here. Like, if you're going to have your currency based on oil, then print a new piece of paper that is worth a barrel of oil. Again, we're having finally a proper dictator-based shitcoin. It's like we've been calling this for years, that the first country that's going to do a proper shitcoin is going to be a dictator-based socialist country. We arrived. Wonderful. I feel really bad for the people of Venezuela. And I'm certain that they're completely uninterested in collecting their government-made shitcoin, and they're going to continue using potatoes, flour, Bitcoin, gold, and everything else they can instead of this shitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. Tone, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with Rodolfo completely. We've always been critical of the petro. The petro has like the scarcity, the petrol has absolutely no scarcity, right? Because they can say one petrol is backed by a barrel of oil or a milliliter of oil. They can always devalue that. They can say, well, now the petrol is worth half of a ounce of oil. It's however they measure it, right? I have no idea what it's pegged to. It's still completely irrelevant. Doesn't the Venezuelan currency devalue like 40% a day anyway? So what is there a big difference with this 95%? I guess they had one big devaluation and now they claim they pegged it, but it's not really a peg, right? It's still a dictatorship, and they can change the amount underlying it anytime they like. It's totally centralized. I mean, the fact that it's built on NAM is technologically ridiculous. And like none of it matters. None of it matters. It's not really a cryptocurrency. It's not proof of work by any means. Like, it's not a blockchain. It's not even a currency. It's just another gimmick to somehow hold off a revolution another week. That's all they do. Every week they come up with another gimmick to tell the public and their population why they shouldn't revolt, or from an economic perspective. It's totally silly.
Thanks, Tone. And yeah, and a very ridiculously insane pre-mine in ICO. Jimmy, thoughts?
Well, yeah, this new way to do something that's a very, very old game, which is, devalue currency, inflate away people's wealth, and capture whatever value you can as a government. This is what socialist governments do. They want to grab everyone's money, and they do it through inflation and taxes. Inflation is a form of tax. So they're devaluing it. They're calling it something new or whatever. The only like nominally interesting thing is that it's supposedly backed by the petro, which is backed by oil. But yeah, it's a centralized entity. You have to put trust in them. There's no redemption process to go and use go hand in your bolivars and go get a barrel of oil or something like that. So these are the games that socialist regimes play, and I still don't understand why people think socialism is a good idea. I'm still like completely confused. Yeah.
Thanks, Jimmy. And yeah, Tone, we've been covering this for a while, and especially that India was the only one that was outspoken that they aren't going to use the petrol. So just as one last follow-up, did you have any last thoughts?
Yeah, so Rodolfo mentioned the large pre-mine. Well, when a government is issuing the currency, I mean, that's kind of implied. And I'm okay with that, right? Like, the government's supposed to be responsible in properly distributing the currency for their population, their country, and how it spreads around the world. That's how it's always been done. The thing with this is, if my memory serves me correctly, the company that was involved in helping them make the petro, I think they got like 50% of all of those tokens, or some unreasonably large number. And that's because the socialist government doesn't care how much money they print for you if they like you. So I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was some unreasonable. Yeah, 50%. Go back up a little bit. I saw a 50% number there. No.
And it's also okay. It's also there as well. Yeah.
Okay, it was also in the picture.
Yes.
I thought I saw like in print, just straight up it said 50%.
No,
so that's what my memory was. Some Israeli company, I think, was doing it, and they got to keep 50% of all the tokens that didn't go to the people.
Yeah. Well, that's 50% of the people that don't even have access to internet in Venezuela.
Yeah. Well, actually, like 50% wasn't going to go to the people, right? Like 2% of this currency is going to go to the people. The Venezuelan communists are going to keep, the other 48%, and they gave away 50% to their friends.
Correct. And the government entity, it's called, well, I don't know if it's actually pronounced because it's an acronym, but SuperCalVN, which is in control of the cryptocurrencies, which obviously is a government agency. So it very much is absolutely staying in the hands of the government, which is, very simply put, in economics, neo-patrimonialism, where the elites keep everything in the center. And again, Rodolfo, just, right after Tone, just, because it's hitting home, I'm sure, for you. Do you have any last thoughts on
Yeah,
this
I
one.
have, I
Yeah,
have
I mean, it's the usual problem, right? Like centralized authority, centralized management is the opposite of how a natural market works, and you always fuck up everything. And you know, it's the usual. You have like socialists not understanding that you need market efficiencies to feed people, and you know, great. Go create your scam coin and starve more people again, so you can try to prove a point. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it looks like the author of that article is in our live stream, and I can't believe that we're actually covering the article. I have
I
not had
know,
time.
buddy.
I haven't had time to read this article yet because it's just like literally it's 7 a.m. for me, but I will. I promise.
And yes, Wiz, I really appreciated it. I asked him before if he would do a deep dive. So thank you for doing this. It is, I was going to mention, a really good one. And he read the white paper. So thank you for reading the white paper and bringing a bunch out.
The article is in the video description, guys, so you can go and grab it.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing I do really find interesting, maybe just being in Washington, D.C., is that I see it as Maduro finally admitting that shit hit the fan. And he doesn't know what to do. So that's, you know, at least the first time I've seen this dictator kind of, in my eyes, admit that they are so, you know, have no idea what they're going to do with this current situation. But yeah, I mean, in this country, power is backed by bullets. Fair. So we will move on because we're going to go quick today. And Jimmy, can you give us the weather report? Oh, you're on mute.
Hey, yeah, so overnight it looks like everything was clearing, but you know, there's that normal early, you know, earlier in the day around 8 a.m. or so, you know, like lots of exchanges will just start, you know, putting out transactions overnight or whatever. So yeah, there's a bunch right now. So I think you're looking at 60, 70 Satoshi per byte if you need it in the next block. I think somewhere around 2 to 5, you'll get it in a few hours at the most. And if you are waiting, if you are willing to wait, like, you know, 6 or 7 hours, something like that, you could probably get in for 1 Satoshi per byte. I've certainly been doing a lot of 1 Satoshi per byte transactions, and they've all been going through. So no problems there.
Thanks, Jimmy. And just while I have you, the Carnivory Club last just the announcement on it.
Yeah, can you refresh the page? Because I did update it while you guys were talking. So
sales have not ended.
Tickets are available now. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be a bunch of us, me and Tone, obviously, and some other people, and you will get a gift. And we're going to hang out, talk, you know, try a few different things to make it so that, you know, people mix and mingle and stuff like that. It's a good time to you know, hang out with other people that are into Bitcoin. You know, dinner is a very good way to do it. It's kind of like a mini conference, but without any of the shitcoin talk. So hopefully that appeals to you.
Awesome. And one last announcement. This was fascinating. I did retweet this and announced. But yeah, so Rodolfo's tweet: how do you store your Bitcoin HODL stash? Paper wallet, hardware wallet, computer phone wallet, and online wallet at exchange. And it was kind of interesting results in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is the sample size on this. It's like the people who follow me are more likely to have the hardware wallet already. I'm very curious to sort of gather, because it has been changing, right? Like the message that Coinbase is a terrible place to keep Bitcoin. And so these things are changing. I'm trying to understand how much it has changed. So maybe I'll run that poll again. I think it just finished. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so I do have a little bit of data on this. So I split hard forks for people, and you know, I kept track of like who was using what wallet. Vast majority of people use Trezors and Ledgers.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. It really is changing.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, I think it's important people really understand that they have to keep their keys safe. And if you don't own the Bitcoin, if you don't own the private key, it's not your Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I
Maybe
like
one
your
of these
second.
days we'll do a safety course or something, because I get this question way too much. Like, how do you keep Bitcoin secure?
Yeah, and I did like your second question, which was you know, what's the primary motivator for not using a hardware wallet? So hopefully we'll keep learning. And Tone, TA. You're on mute.
Well,
Oh, there we go.
let's go take a look at the TA. Please make sure I'm in color. And
Okay.
before we do that, I finally updated my affiliates and referral page. Thank you, World of Rusty, for the amazing cover art. We're going to make some of these even a little bit cooler. I added a couple of new affiliate codes. I've been meaning to do it for a while. There's your code card, Rodolfo, right there. So you can go ahead and click on that if you want to order one. Unfortunately, there is no discount code for you guys yet. Somebody needs to program something on the back end over there. And then I can give you guys like a 5 or a 10% discount by going through my website. You gonna work on that?
Soon. Yeah, I mean, the problem, we run our own store. It's not BTC Pay or anything like that. It's their own thing, and you know, it takes a little bit of time to do that. It's either we work on that or we make our stuff more secure. So
yeah,
I choose working on security issues.
Yeah, but by the way, my own personal disclaimer, like if it's a physical product, like a cold card, like a buy the dip shirt, like a watch, like a hodl hat, which is now here. People were asking me, where do I get my hodl hat? I don't actually get paid for this, right? These are discounts just for you guys. Like none of these companies are giving me any financial kickback. So this I don't do. Bitmax, sure, I get a little tiny bit of commission. Doesn't cost you anything extra, but not the physical not the physical goods. I added a miner company, a third-party company that says to ship you miners. Same thing with Crypto HW Wallet. I'm assuming sooner or later they're going to carry the cold card as well. So go ahead and check those out. And of course, my Amazon affiliate codes are back. Let's see how long they keep me before kicking me out again and again and again. All right, let's get into the price. Here's the monthly chart. Nothing has really changed. Not going to talk about that. The stop and reverse points and the Bollinger Band outlook is telling you to be cautious and to be leaning bearish on the weekly chart. We have a new week. We have a new starting week. Here is our massive descending triangle. Ideally, is that a message for me? Okay, that's fine. So ideally, you want this to touch the top of the triangle one more time and then come down to the triangle and then consolidate and then break down. I have no idea if it's going to do that. All I can say is I have about a 75% certainty that we're going to break down. This is just a normal statistics of the shape of the triangle. So we're going to break down. I don't know when we're going to break down. I don't know if we're going to hit the bottom of the target, but I'm pretty certain, over 75% certain, that this triangle is going to break down and we will at least go down to this blue line, which I have at 4,975. Once we get there, I will reevaluate all of my statistics. But the 30-week moving average continues to drop down hard. Right now, it's in line with the top of the triangle. Eventually, next week, it'll probably come down and be in line with this Fibonacci line at 7,600. After that, it's going to come down to 7,200. So the more weeks it takes for us to consolidate, the more momentum we're going to have in order to break down the bottom of the triangle. I have no idea when, but bullish trades are a lot more risky right now than bearish trades. So I would look for bearish trades. You are on a 3 weekly of 9, so potential of 7 more weeks of downside, considering today is Monday of week number 3. So you have an entire week of number 3 plus 6 more weeks going into a 9. Maybe that 9 would be a little bit cleaner than our last 9 for trading purposes. Here's the current daily chart. Let me see if I can zoom this in. Here's the current daily chart. It looks like all the moving averages have kind of flatlined, but look, the fastest moving average is below the medium, is below the high moving average. These are moving averages are 50, 128, and 200. All your depth crosses have already taken place. You are consolidating right here. I drew this green line at 66.50 a little while ago, and as long as you're below that line, you're in a no trade zone. As long as you're above 61.50 and you're below 66.50, it's really a no trade zone. And look, you're already at a 7, right? You will need to have a big pop tomorrow in order to get a green 8, and then after that a 9. So it's possible we're going to top out in 2 days in the vicinity of 67.50, or maybe even as high as 7,000. Because when I go to the 4-hour chart, yeah, the 12-hour chart isn't telling you anything useful, so we'll skip that. When I go to the 4-hour chart, you can see how the shorts continue to be grossly leveraged. And this creates the perfect opportunity for a short squeeze. The shorts are slightly being deleveraged, but not enough so. There is a lot more people that are leveraged short than long, and that creates a situation that is ripe for a short squeeze. The CMF has gone positive. OBV is still a little bit of a basket case. The RSI continues to trickle up, and if we get a pop to 7,000, the RSI will certainly go overbought, and that would be enough. So I'm still looking for that short squeeze where the price pops to 7,000, maybe even a little bit higher, wipes out the shorts, and then creates the perfect scenario to come back to 6,000 and break down below the triangle. The 1-hour chart isn't telling you anything useful. We will skip that. This is, what is this? This is Ethereum. Look, Ethereum continues to go down. This is weekly Ethereum versus Bitcoin, and you are on a 4 of 9 plus a 10 of 13 on the sequential. Ethereum is looking really, really bad right now, guys, from a price perspective. This is the S&P 500, and as I suspected, the S&P is still going up. I've been bullish the S&P, and we are now on a 7 weekly of 9, so potential 3 more weeks of upside. This week plus 2 more. I mean, do be careful with candle number 8. The medium-term moving average is slightly trending down, so it's not the perfect scenario, but I think next week is going to turn around and start trading up again. I think we're going to start knocking out some of these lows from the back end of the calculation. This is, what is this? Oh, this is the daily S&P 500. Let me squeeze the timeline a little bit. This looks great. We are looking to go back to the top of the channel. I would still like for us to hit the top of the channel, make a double top, reverse back to the bottom of the channel, and then break out of this channel going into year end. I wouldn't mind this being a dead year for the S&P, not making any money, setting us up for a beautiful next year. This is Amazon. It was funny. I did my workshop, by the way. I did my workshop on Saturday with my class, and one of the guys sitting in the front row was telling me about his Amazon exit. So basically, he exited right on this day. So he exited on a daily 9 on August 14th out of his bullish trade in Amazon. And the reason why he did that is also because the weekly Amazon was on a 9. So he exited his all of his Amazon long trade on a weekly 9 within a daily 9. And if I can remember his number correctly, the high that day was 1921. And he said he exited all of his Amazon long trades at 1919 or 1917. Now, that wasn't the high. There was a high a couple of days. There was a high 1 day earlier, just a little bit by a few dollars, 1925. But that was certainly a very good exit for him. And that's great. He used the indicator. He didn't even, he did have it actually. Those that he registered for my workshop a couple of weeks earlier. So he had access to my version of the indicator. So that's great. It's always good to hear those stories. And this is the Turkish lira. Again, you got a 9. Yeah, you went a little bit higher. You had your 1 to 4 candle correction, and now the Turkish lira is screwed again. And at this point, do be mindful of the bull trap of a bubble. But at this point, I have to assume that the lira is going to go back to new all-time lows against the US dollar. And gold, not surprised. Also, you hit a 9, 1 to 4 candle correction, maybe something more significant into the moving averages. And then I expect it to reverse again. What is this? Oh, no, that's my sample trading chart. I don't need that. Cancel, save, and close. Come on. There we go. All right, that's it. Announcements. I am speaking at this conference. There's a panel here in about 10 minutes. Wall Street. I'm not speaking on this panel, by the way. Wall Street versus crypto. I should be speaking on this panel. I am not speaking on this panel. I will be on stage 2 with a fireside chat with Michael Turpin over the whole ICO thing. And it's really interesting because the following day on stage 1, I am once again on the ICO panel with Michael Turpin. So I have a feeling I'm going to just repeat myself somewhere. I don't even know where it is. My picture is there somewhere, unless they remove me. I don't even know. Tone. There I am. So I'm also on the ICO panel tomorrow. So it would have been nice to be on the Wall Street panel, but that's okay. So I'm talking about ICOs on each of these 2 days. After that, I am off to Chicago. I fly out Wednesday morning. We're doing the carnivory dinner Friday night with Jimmy, and I'll be speaking at that conference Friday and Saturday, followed by my workshop on Thursday, right? So that's it. I have to add another one immediately. The next ones are going to be Australia. So this is it. My last workshop in North America is going to be Chicago. We're going to open up Chiang Mai and Singapore for registration this weekend or this week. And I'm going to, set my Australia schedule, and maybe I'll add Prague as well. I'm thinking about it. But yeah, and after, don't forget the carnivory dinner. Here it is. Here's the carnivory dinner. I should probably refresh my page, like Jimmy said. Let's see what it says. Did he raise the price? Did we get our minimum quota? Nope, the price stayed the same, but you can register again. But yeah, so check that out. And then we're all on the cruise together. And I think I'm speaking in Ukraine, but I don't want to pull up that website yet until I'm sure. And I still can't pull up the honey. Oh, here it is. It's working for me again. Beautiful. The Honey Badger Conference. This is going to be absolutely awesome. I can't wait to hang out with all of these people. Blockchain Day in Amsterdam. This is the Prague Conference. Just so many, and I'll have more for you soon. But that's pretty much it. Not much else to add on this one.
We're gonna miss Rodolfo in Prague and on our cruise, though.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, so Hodo is it's about the delivery date, so I'm definitely not going to that one. Oh, I should say, Fogo de Chão, where you guys are gonna have the Crypto Carnivore dinner, is very good. It's one of my favorite Brazilian steakhouses. Have a lot of cheese bread for me, and do it in front of Seyfedin.
But if you forget, sometimes I forget to flip the coaster, and so they keep bringing it and bringing it, and then I finally remember.
Don't visit the salad bar. Do that after.
Don't go to the salad bar.
Oh crap, guys! I almost forgot. The SD cards are on the store, so industrial grade SD cards. I keep on forgetting to sell my stuff.
Nice.
It's okay.
Nice.
They have a link now through my website.
All right. Cold card. Everybody, Tone, have fun at the conference. Good luck speaking. Are you going to say the word shitcoin on stage?
Yes.
Maybe. I try not to curse. I do my best not to curse on stage.
Say poop coin.
Right. Oh, that's a good one. We should hashtag that.
That's right. It's got even an emoji.
Oh, go get the .com, man, before somebody else does. Poop.
I bet it's taken.
Oh, boy. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. You can listen to this later
Take care,
on
guys.
the podcast. Bye, Rodolfo. Bye, Tone.
Bye, guys.